Forestry slash. Far worse than carbon emissions. In New Zealand, the failing Labour, Green and Māori parties harp on and on about the need to tax people or make them drive unaffordable, expensive battery-powered electric vehicles in order to save the country and the planet from polluting greenhouse gas carbon emissions. Yet, staring them in the face year after year is the damage and destruction caused by slash, the leftover remnants caused by high-speed pine forestry farming. It might be a good idea if the failing Labour, Green and Māori parties started fixing real live day-to-day problems rather than playing tax grab games with climate change gimmickry. Today is a great day for all politicians to walk away from the Paris Agreement and also the New Zealand Emissions Trading Scheme. The Paris Agreement is nothing more than a socialist sleight of hand gimmick to transfer wealth from richer nations to poorer nations, disguised as reparations for damaging their countries due to climate change carbon emissions. And the New Zealand Emission Trading Scheme is nothing more than another socialist gimmick, just a tax grab, disguised as caring for whatever they can deceive you into believing about the damage caused by carbon greenhouse gas emissions. Perhaps global politicians should consider bonus schemes rather than penalty schemes. Thank you for listening. Wangari Tim.
Every time it rains heavily, East Coast people fear what could come around the corner. But this is big business, forecast to be worth nearly $6.5 billion in exports this year. Those living with slash now adamant the status quo is no longer acceptable.
I woke up and I looked out the window and I shit myself, literally, because of the trees that were bending over, the noise that was coming, the water being shoved up in the air, the trees rearing and bucking and cracking and banging, and this great collection of logs that was just built up down here. I've lost 15 metres, maybe 20 metres of land just slid into the river from this last one. Cyclone Bowler was a big one. It had lots of wood, but nothing like what we're getting now. It didn't create the damage that we've got on the sides of the rivers now, which is the big one. The river in its width has increased because it smashed the sides back so much. The forestry slash has caused the silt. The slash comes down and it smashes on the side of the river. It pulls the willow trees out, it slides down the hills and it creates silt. And every time the logs came down, they smashed a few more willows. And this is just taken it, just gone. If we get another one like Gabriel, I would not like to be living here because it will, I'm sure, will just pick the house up and rip it off its foundations with the force of the water that was coming through here. Before I had a stop bank along there that protected it all. Well, Gabriel just leapt across the top of that. So we either have to, well, we have to move our house. We can't leave it there. But do I move it out the front and go through another storm, or do I move it away to somewhere else? I don't know. It all depends on the insurance company, doesn't it? If they pay us out and they say, okay, your house is too damaged to live in, well, then they pay us out. We're not rich people. We don't have a lot of money. It's all tied up in your house and your land, so what do? You have to wait to hear from them. At the moment, it looks like the house at the moment is salvageable. It could be picked up and moved. You can't live in it because it's silt through there. It smells awful.
This is what happens now in every major storm. Nearby, a smaller, lower bridge was already almost fully dammed up. Logs arriving like stock being herded. More and more and more. And when the bridges can no longer hold them, this. This was State Highway 2 between Wairoa and Napier. This major bridge is completely gone now. No cars can cross here for months. In their place, this chainsaw debris, a violent gridlock of slash. If your river looks like this, every piece of wood you're seeing here will head somewhere. And river after river on the east coast does look like this after storms, full of slash. And forests are full of slash, that future storms will move into rivers, and rivers will carry it under bridges and onto farmlands and roads and into homes, ceaselessly, every storm, wood and water, water and wood, And the people who live with this again and again are getting tired of it now, really tired. That's a road below us and a bridge. How long before this happens again? Before the slash, forest debris washes down from the hills onto the farmlands of Tairāwhiti, into homes, onto the coast. It's almost hard to understand this shot because the brain won't quite compute there can be so much wood that it can fill a river to the point the river disappears, a flood of wood. And what we're seeing here is only one river, all along the coastline northeast of Gisborne, at Tolaga Bay, Tokomaru Bay. Every time there's a serious storm, versions of this happen. Slash highways, bullies. And up in the hills there's so much more of this, waiting for the next storm to wash it down. And what makes this so sad is that when the trees were planted after the devastation of Cyclone Bola in 1988, the people here were told pine forestry would stop the flooding and erosion. And they believed it.